Cool. Right. Welcome back, one and all, to Move, Breathe, Live with me, Wibbs. Today, I am super stoked to welcome, and quite a few of you have actually commented when I posted this week that I was saying I've got this guest coming on. They were like, oh my God, I'm so excited for that episode. So I have got Dr. Perry Nickleston from the Stop Chasing Pain world. If you don't follow him yet, then you will after this, and you will constantly be, probably like me, reading his little posts and just going, yes, and sticking it in your Instagram stories because they all just hit the mark. Right, so I'm going to throw it over to you, if that's all right, Perry, and you can introduce yourself, say a little bit about who you are, what you are, and then we'll get sliding from there.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you very much, my friend. I'm really excited to be on your show to talk about things that I love and you love, and let's hope everybody is still excited by the time I'm done. So it's really kind and really nice. Well, we were talking a little bit before we hit the record button. I mean, we're on similar journeys, right? I mean, we want to do what we can and sharing with people, you know, our perspective on things and things that we've been through to help them suffer a little bit less. I mean, that's a great thing, right? Just to share some things that, here's what I've learned in my journey is that something that seems very simple and easy and basic and fundamental to us might be something that another human being has, first of all, never heard before, even though you've heard it before, because don't assume everybody knows basics and fundamentals, because they don't. And if they did, they probably neglect them anyway. And that's been one of my biggest triggers. Of sometimes I think myself of, you're just coming to see me to point out the obvious to you that maybe, first of all, is not so obvious, like I said before, or we overlook them because we think that there's no way the answer to my problem could be that simple. And I'm like, you want to bet? Like a big one is this: listen, if you're not sleeping, no magical therapy I'm going to do to you on my treatment table is going to work for long.
No, absolutely. No, that's completely right. And, you know, I'm sure, well, I've had the amount of people who have come in to see me, and we've either just made them breathe a little bit slower, or, you know, through my work with Gary Ward and like getting the body to move better, we've literally just almost like slid their head up a wall and down a wall a few times, and they've walked away and their headaches have gone, and, you know, their shoulders suddenly feels better, their left foot feels better, and all you've done is just move their spine a couple of times, and it's had and to them, like, why the hell would they think that their headaches come from a rib cage that doesn't move? And from our perspective, as you say, it seems so obvious when you look at them, but you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, it's so true. That's even in the medical profession, people that are supposed to be best, but usually you find that people specialize so much in one thing that they become not so great at a lot of other stuff. So people, you need to remember that when you become really, really good at something, you become not so good at the other remaining things. I think somebody said as a specialist is somebody who knows more and more about less and less. Yeah. And that's why you got to go to this specialist, to that specialist. And that's what my brand, Stop Chasing Pain, was born from. Because of me, one, I just got tired of chasing and treating where people would point, and then stuff maybe getting better for a little while, but it doesn't stick. I was always on a quest for, why in the world do all these great things that we use, all these techniques and protocols, which they all work? There's a dirty little secret everybody needs to know, is that everything works for somebody if you do them at the right time and in the right order for the context that they need in that moment in time, which can change in a hot second. But it wasn't lasting. I'm like, listen, the human body is way more capable of this. We are missing something. And like you said before, you wanted to try to get people before it was too late, before they walked into an emergency ward, those small little action steps that they took their entire life that probably contributed to what's happening with them right now, is a lifestyle disease, which is very different than trauma. You know, if I punch you in the face, A equals B, that's pretty easy to fix. But if all of a sudden you wake up one day and your face hurts and it's swollen, you can't go about it the same way.
No, not at all. So obviously, what was your background then? Because I've got a pretty solid idea, but where you obviously come from, like a treating medically, and obviously you've got the doctor for your name. You're a doctor of chiropractor, is that right?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm a chiropractor, but I don't tell people that's what my profession is, because what happens is when I say that, you automatically go to the mental file folder of what you think that means. It's going to be based on your experience or somebody else's that shared a horrific one. All right. So you think you know what I do based on the label that's put together with that symbol. And I tell people there's virtually zero chance you're going to get it right of what I do. And my chiropractic is just a small piece of it. But I got into that because I wanted to look a little bit more holistically at the body, but I also realized that they're very myopic too. It's going after the spine and it's going after the nervous system, which is great, right? And it's through fixations, subluxations, mobilizations, which are fantastic. I mean, you need those things to increase some mobility in areas of the body that don't move so well. Basically, that means more movement in places that are stuck. My job is to unstuck them. That's my medical term for it. But I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of other systems that still got to work too. And yeah, the nervous system is a controller of one, but it can also work the other way. And I ventured out of chiropractic more because I was very frustrated in the results I was getting just from doing that approach. And I got more into musculoskeletal things, and that led me into movement, which led me into neuroscience and pain science. But I also wanted to study different thought processes, right? Because listen, we're all trying to go after the same thing, which is to help someone else not suffer so much. And you usually fall into something that you gravitated towards, or something more important that maybe saved the life of someone that you love. Then you will usually check it out. What I mean by that is, you probably did great with a physical therapist, so you want to become a physical therapist. You did great with chiro, you want to become a chiro. You did great with Ayurvedic medicine, I want to study that. But I like to study, okay, they're going after the same thing, but they're using just different terminology, or maybe they're asking, here's why I like it, they're asking different questions.
Yes.
Which is what science is. You have to ask different questions. You have to challenge things. So I studied everything from Eastern medicine to Western medicine to Ayurvedic medicine to energetic medicine, holistic, whatever you want to throw in there, because the labels don't mean squat to me, nothing. There's just a path that you can go down temporarily, because hopefully you'll explore more other paths, because you may be missing a lot of different things. So I actually like to think that if I bring so many of that thought process to me, I'm able to spot things that maybe I don't necessarily have the skill set or not in my wheelhouse, but I know enough to send you to somebody who does. Yeah.
And I think that's what's so often miss with so many practitioners. And I think they don't want to be like, they want it for one, whether it's financial, I don't know, but they want to at least be able to pretend like they can do everything. So therefore they can, I guess the client can keep coming back to them. But from my perspective, same idea of like, I've got I've got my nursing background, which gives me a solid background. And then through the yoga, through the movement, through the breathing, through my work with Gary and whatever, yes, I've built this fairly reasonable wheelhouse of understandings. But, there's definitely times when I am out of my depth, and it's like, actually, this is not my thing. And you probably need to go and see that person there.
I mean, I like to think of myself as a generalist, where I know enough to just how to look at a body, look at a system, mostly for some basics and fundamental for someone. For instance, you Gary Ward, who's a good friend of mine, and he's been on my podcast. And if you don't own your feet, that's going to be a big problem somewhere. Right? Maybe not that you notice, and the wheels will fall off later. But how about you make them work as best as they can, so you can function as best as you can, right? So you can look at those. That's just what I call a checklist manifesto. I learned this in medicine, where I read a book called Checklist Manifesto. You may have seen it. It's from the medical profession, where this guy was trying to decrease medical errors.
That's right. Yeah.
And so he said, why don't you make like a checklist of basics and fundamentals? Like, did you wash your hands?
Yeah.
And front and back? did you blah, blah, blah. And initially they got resistance from the doctors because they're like, who are you to tell me this? But they realized when they put like a simple 10 checklist up there, that the death rates or issues with medical error significantly decreased, and in-hospital infections significantly decreased, because you just assumed everybody was doing it wrong. Yeah. And you put it up. That's what I do. So when you come in to see me, my assessment is a basic checklist. You might not have anything wrong with those things, but you can bet your ass I'm gonna check them.
Yeah.
And in my world, it's pretty simple. You're the last person. I'm the last person that you see, not the first. Like you've gone everywhere else, and stuff that was supposed to work, if it was gonna work, it would have helped. Yeah. Or maybe it helped for a little while and it didn't come back. So maybe you have little pieces of something, but something is just not right. And that's when you're like, all right, I'll go see this guy. What the hell do I have to lose? I'm like, perfect. Yeah. Now you're ready for the stuff that I'm going to do. And so what I'm going to do, first of all, is not what everybody else has done, because if that was what you needed, you wouldn't be there seeing me. But then I thought to myself, maybe that's not right, because maybe I'm assuming that they've done things to you that should have been done that weren't. Like basic fundamental questions. Hey, do you drink water? Mm-hmm. No, not really. That's a big one on the top 5. How about we start there, right?
Because even like you said as well, are you sleeping?
Right. Yeah. Are you sleeping? And tell me a little bit about your sleeping, right? It's just basic fundamental human being functional questions. And so I started to go through the list, and I realized that most people are missing something on the list, or they've never had them checked before. That's all I'm trying to get to people, is that one thing that I believe is a really lost art, because there's a science to medicine, but there's an art to it. Mm-hmm. That is the manual examination with hands-on and touching tissue, which is not tissue. You're touching a human being that's going to react to your touch. So I'm watching your reaction more than I'm thinking about what the hell I'm touching. Yeah. Because what you're touching changes its response based on who's carrying it around, which means your trap ain't the same as another trap. Different life story to that trapezius muscle. Yeah. You follow? So all of those things I'm putting in is that, so what I do is now is I have what's called an awareness exam. And it's an awareness for me when I go through the hands-on assessment. I basically touch almost every square inch of your body, and I'm going to watch your reaction to it. And then most people will find it, oh my God, I can't believe how much of my body actually hurts. Yeah. Right? Or is tight or is stiff, because they don't feel physical pain there yet. And so it's an awareness from me to find out what's going on in your body, but really it's an awareness for you to know, wow, like I never knew that was there. Or there's probably parts of your body that you forgot you even had because they didn't hurt. Most people only know they have a body part when it hurts.
Well, absolutely. But all the funny thing is like how, I mean, I've seen it in some of your clips that you've put on from some of your workshops and the like, is when you're examining, so like assessing someone and you press somewhere and they're where they shouldn't hurt, like, you know, there's especially abdominal and stuff like that. And, you know, and they kind of shit the bed and like near enough jump off the couch. And, but they have no idea that place is actually really tender, or that it's going to be tender. And then you touch it and they're suddenly like, whoa, no idea about that. And then, you know, yeah, you've obviously we'll come into it in a bit, but you've got all of this stuff about, the liver and the spleen and like kidneys and all sorts of bits and pieces that you kind of like go into with all your lymph work and everything. But yeah, it's
we go into everything, man. You know, one of the central tenets that I say all the time is, you know, no system in your body works alone. No, it never gets injured alone. It never heals alone. There is no such thing as an isolated injury in your body. It's full body or nothing. Yeah. And there's no such thing as isolated healing, but that's exactly what we do, is we isolate down to a microscopic level. That's called reductionist thinking. And it plays a part in understanding a part of how things work. But what you need to understand is this, is that when you put a part that's broken down to a single cell, if you stick it in something with a lot of other cells, it completely changes how it behaves.
Yeah.
Humans do that all the time. If I'm alone, I'm going to behave differently than if you stick me in a room with 5 other people. Now, imagine if you stick me in a room with a couple of trillion of them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That's what cells are. So it plays a part that you look at something in isolation, but it doesn't behave the same way in what I call real life. That's the difference between laboratory work and real life work. And here's the thing, it changes based on the human being that you're putting it in. So what I mean by that is that I could take the same cell and put it in you, and I'll take the same cell and put it in me, and it's going to manifest differently because of what that cell is going to be told about the prior experience of all the other cells. That's called epigenetics, otherwise called your life.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, your whole history, like your history plus your parents and your probably grandparents, potentially all of that, like familial like experience is all going to be playing out into exactly what you're living right now, which I guess is why Sapolsky's currently writing a book, why apparently we don't have free will, because of stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I actually completely agree with that. And he's like, listen, I'm going to say something here a lot of you are going to disagree with, but I think he's right.
Yeah. No, I think I'm probably, especially like having heard him like talk about it, you just kind of like, there's not really an argument against it, I wouldn't think. But
yeah, I like that guy, man. He's a good thinker. Plus, he wrote the title for one of the best book titles ever written on the damn planet, Why Zebras Don't Have Ulcers.
So good, isn't it? So good. And it's such a good book as well. Just I mean,
yeah, you're like, dude, I want to be a zebra. Like,
yeah, I know. I just literally want to be able to chill out. That like, fuck.
Actually, I'd want to be the lion, but Yeah.
I probably want to be the lion as well. At least that way, it's kind of, you can get stressed for a second, not catching food, and then just go and lay in the sun again. So let's go into this then, because I really want to start chatting to you, because you are probably one of the only people I know who really gives lymph any time of day.
Oh yeah.
I really I mean, if I go back to my nursing head here, I can't think that we probably even gave the lymphatic system more than, if it got a 2-hour lecture, it was probably lucky. I don't think it even did, in all fairness.
Oh, you'd be really lucky if you got 2 hours, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain. I think we only got 2 hours on the coronary care system, on the coronary system, in all fairness. So I could be wrong. But yes, so you on Instagram, you are the lymph doc, and on other stuff, I guess. But can you briefly go into, give people an idea, because like I say, if us nurses aren't getting a lot of training in it, there's a strong chance anybody else listening is not as well. Can you give us a quick idea of what lymph is and why it's an issue quite often, and in the work that you do, why you find it such an important place to dive into?
Here's the hard part. Quick.
Yeah. We can go for hours, mate. I don't care. I'm here.
No, you might want to put your seatbelt on, man, because I teach 2-day workshops that are 16 hours, and I still got to stop myself because people have no freaking idea just how powerful this system is. To me, it's the most important and neglected system in the human body that nobody ever talks about, unless there's two circumstances that come up. Mm-hmm. One is cancer.
Yeah.
Right. Because they hear that you have to get some lymph node removed and stuff like that, particularly with breast cancer around the axilla. Mine were removed in my neck about 20 years ago because I had thyroid cancer, and they removed a pretty significant amount of lymph in my neck that I didn't even pay any attention to at the time because I just wasn't focused on the lymphatics. So that's when you hear about it. And the other one is when you have a condition called lymphedema, which means that a body part or multiple body parts can become abnormally enlarged and swollen through fluid accumulation. Happens most often in the legs and ankles because they're furthest away from the pressure drain of the lymphatics at the neck. So most people may know that they'll get swelling sometimes when they're on a plane, for instance, things like that. Those are the only times you really ever hear about it. And it was for me too, honestly. It's like I have to keep in mind that until a short while ago, I really didn't pay it much attention either. But pain and suffering and an ass kicking and from the life usually has a way of teaching you things. And you're never going to change when you're comfortable, because you're comfortable. Why would you? Yeah. So, I mean, you got to get a beat down sometimes to move from point A. And mine was getting really, really sick with an autoimmune disease that they really don't even have a name for. Probably had more than one, but it was just my whole immune system went nutso.
Right.
And I just started to get a lot of infections everywhere. Right. And every orifice on my body that could get infected did. So I'll let you just sit with that one for a minute.
We can take that.
Yeah. But it's true. It's like I just couldn't. I mean, my body was trying to protect me from something.
Yeah.
And the traditional medical approach, even though they were trying to help me, made me worse, which happens a lot because they're going at it from a certain model of a thought process, medications or surgeries or antibiotics. And yeah, it helped me for a little while, but it didn't fix the problem for me. Actually, it got worse. And I had a physical and mental breakdown. I had to stop teaching and I had to stop treating clients because I lost the ability to function, sleeping 17, 18 hours a day. I couldn't think anymore. So losing my mind was the scariest part with the neural inflammation and brain inflammation. And I honestly gave up, man. And I tell this on my podcast and everything. I made a call to a suicide hotline because I wanted to kill myself. Because I was like, I can't do this anymore and I can't find any answers. And that call was a come to Jesus moment for me that I realized, you know what? You're going to have to rescue yourself.
Yes.
Perry. And a lot of people have to come to that point. And honestly, you should, because it's your responsibility. It's your body. Nobody should care more about your body than you do. So you be relentless on trying to search for it. And if anybody gives you shit for it, you just keep going.
Yeah.
And I came across looking at different things outside of traditional medicine. That's where my quest for looking at energy medicine, and more so from like, what do cells need to heal themselves? I mean, that's got to be something that they need, and they need energy.
Your chat with Jerry Tennant.
Tennant will blow your head up.
Mate, that podcast of him was like coming from a medical, like a Western medical, like, or Western understanding of energy, as in like not woo woo type, but just physical, like electricity, just physics and physics, not even chemistry, like physics, was like a real, like the pH to electrical current type idea, and all that was like, wow, this is amazing.
I mean, if you look at it, if you break it down, it's biochemistry. It's it's how the body functions, right?
Yeah.
And we're all talking the same language when we're trying to heal somebody. We're just using different words, you might say, right? But we're still saying the same thing. And that was one of the most transformational books that I read, because he went through a similar journey of me where he almost died and he had to rescue himself. And he said, I cracked open a physiology book to see what the hell the cells need. They obviously don't need medication, because if that was it, you'd be better by now. Right?
Yeah.
And he just looked at fundamental processes, and it came down to energy mechanisms. And a big one, of course, was oxygen, right? I mean, having enough oxygen. And so that's when I came across some lymphatic work, and I went to a workshop on energy medicine in Europe, and they were startled when they saw me, because people followed me on social media, and they were startled at how sick I looked and how I was. And they did a lymph assessment on me, and I was like lymph what? What the hell are you talking about? And then every single part of my body that they touched was more painful than the next, and it was very swollen. And it blew my mind. I was just amazed, because here's the thing. I was pressing on those areas too, but I wasn't thinking about lymph. What I was thinking was fascia. And nerves and muscle. But that's my joke. When I press on a part of the body and people say, what are you impacting? My answer is yes. Like, you name it. It's freaking everything. You What nerve am I pressing on? Who cares? All of them, because you can't
Or-
press on one nerve and not affect all of them. So you
Yes.
got to stop that stupid stuff of worrying about the names of anatomy. And maybe it'll help you learn it, but it ain't going to help you understand how it works.
Yeah,
And
or treat
functions
with
together.
Yeah.
Like the names are irrelevant. That's a big thing that I need to tell people, because names are labels. And names are very intimidating. Like if I say the musculoskeletal nerve, automatically you think you're not smart enough and you don't know what it means, especially if you're a lay person. And I'm like, listen, you're a person, you can learn it. So I want you to call your musculoskeletal nerve a water bottle. I don't care what the hell you call it. I just want you to know, how does that water bottle react with another water bottle somewhere else? That's all I want you to know. And they're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I'm like, yes, it does. Right. And so, but here's the thing. They did the assessment on me. I mean, and I felt like somebody dropped me out of an airplane and then ran me over with a dump truck because I had a detox. But like a day later, I don't know if it's in my head or not, man, but I feel like 40% better. Like I felt more energy. I could breathe. For me, one of the biggest things I had was I had clogged nostrils all the time, mucus down my throat and clearing my throat. I had phlegm.
Yeah.
Mucus. And why does your body give you mucus? To protect you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's laying down stuff to coat things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And because if you can't get stuff out, your body's going to be like, dude, you can't get the stuff out of you. This sucks. So we got to protect you somehow. So I'm going to coach you. And just try to protect you as long as I can. And so that I could actually breathe for the first time, which was amazing for me. And then that's when I said, there's got to be something here. And of course, when you get me onto something, I don't stop. And then I start to see how I can connect it to all the other stuff I've learned. So here's the beautiful thing about my journey is that I combine lymph work with all the work that I've studied up to that point and linking it to pain science, emotion science, brain science, musculoskeletal stuff, movement stuff, breathing stuff, because I wanted to integrate them all together. And the reason it made such a difference for me is because the lymphatics are the primary system of a component of two systems. One, your immune system. And inflammation is an immune system response.
Which is bad, by the way, guys. Let's just point that out. Like inflammation, we all we ever hear is that inflammation is really bad, but it should be like a good, helpful thing for us in the short term.
Well said. Yeah. If you didn't have inflammation, you'd be dead really quick.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like stress. Stress is bad.
No.
Incessant, never-ending, bone-crushing, soul-crushing stress is bad because you just can't catch up.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with inflammation. It's like pain. Pain isn't bad either, because if you couldn't experience pain, you would die very quick because you couldn't tell if you cut yourself, if you burned yourself.
How many diabetics end up getting bloody, gangrene or something from their neuropathy?
Because so all those are protective mechanisms. They feel like punishment mechanisms because you're suffering. But suffering is the best way you're going to change something. Your body says, listen, this dude ain't listening. So here it comes. I'm going to hurt you because I'm going to make you listen one way or the other.
Yeah.
And that's what it does. Right. So pain is a request for change. That's what it is. Right. Yeah. And people say, change what? Here comes my answer. Yes. I don't something. You just better do something different than what you're doing. I don't care what it is. Just start with one thing. Right. And sometimes it's not what you start doing, it's what you stop doing. Yes. How about you stop drinking alcohol? That's probably a good one. Right.
Yeah.
So just eliminate things as opposed to adding things. Because here's the thing, you can, it's a never ending list of add, but most people are so toxic, they need to remove first. So back to the add, it's your immune system. So like, holy cow, then I should probably pay attention to that because its job is to kill things inside of you that you don't want.
Yeah.
And then flush it out through the other detox organs, through pooping and through peeing, liver and kidney stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's also part of your cardiovascular system. Like you can't have a cardiovascular problem or a breathing problem or a lung problem or a heart problem without having a lymph problem. It's impossible because it's called the second cardiovascular system. So if you want to go harder, faster, stronger, longer, you better make sure your lymph works well. Because if it doesn't, your heart's going to have to pump harder, faster, stronger, longer. And you're going to get high blood pressure, or you're going to tank out really, really fast, or you're going to change your ratio of carbon dioxide to oxygen. I mean, it's a downstream issue like crazy. So it's really, really super important to work. And once I show people this, they go this, they say the same thing. Oh my God, that's incredible. And then they say this, how come no one ever told me about this?
How come no one ever fucking told me this?
Like, if it was so important, why didn't somebody? And then my answer is this. That's a good question. Maybe you should ask them that.
Yes.
Because they should have. So don't negate it because you didn't hear about it, that it's not important, because it is. And that's my mission, to try to tell people that. And then when I show them how to help it, then they also say the same thing. That's it? You're kidding me. That's all I got to do? There's no way. And I'm like, yes way.
Yeah.
Who the hell said something that's got to be complicated to be effective?
Honestly, I mean, even in like my little world of, my work with Patrick and, I chatted with a couple of weeks ago. I had Sandra Khan, who wrote that book, Jaws, Story of a Hidden Epidemic, all about facial structure and stuff, but just discussing sleep and whatever else. And, telling people to put a little bit of tape on their mouth when they go to bed at night, just so their lips stay shut. And they cannot, like, okay, sometimes first night, sometimes 4 or 5 nights after, but 98% of people who have done it within a week have been like, holy fuck, I can't believe I'm sleeping so well.
Right.
And you're like, well, why did no one tell us that? Why have, and then it kind of dives into this similar thing of like, well, why is it? And you go, well, because this is designed to be breathed through. And you suddenly, why was I always told at school to just, like, in PE, to just breathe through my mouth and whatever else? And you're like, I don't know, because they don't know what they're talking about, I guess, or what they've been told is, I don't know. I don't even want to say outdated, because someone said to me the other day, they're like, well, maybe these ideas are just, more modern. It's like, well, no, because it's been fairly well known since,
right.
There's definitely papers from 1830 or something like that describing like nasal breathing compared to mouth breathing. So it shouldn't be that. And it's probably similar with lymph and the like. We don't know.
Oh my God, you covered so many important points there. Like, taping my mouth shut changed my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm a perpetual mouth breather. I mean, my kids would always take pictures of me sleeping, because I'd be like this. If you're watching that, like on an airplane now. And it was huge for me to keep it closed. And it's too big to get in through here, but that's really, really effective, to tape your mouth shut and breathe through your nose for moving your lymph, because it drives the diaphragm, and the diaphragm is the main pump for the lymphatic system that's there. And then they find that when you sleep at night is when your brain drains its toxins to what's called the lymphatic system, your cerebrospinal fluid that coats your brain, and even your spine and your spinal nerves, flushes at night. And if you have your mouth open, that doesn't happen as well, because you're losing your piston of pressure. So you'll get brain toxins if you are a mouth breather or you don't sleep at night, because that lymphatic system works primarily when you're sleeping, not when you're awake. Right. So those are the people that have the brain fog, inflammation, and fatigue. And, that's the first sign of inflammation in the brain or in the body. And then people say, how do you know you have brain inflammation? I'm like, that's easy. You're alive. I know you got it. It just depends on how bad it is.
Yeah.
And it's so true with what you said about stuff that has been there for a long time, because they don't really talk about lymph now. They are, one, because I'm trying to talk about it a lot, but two, now they're actually able to see physically functional MRIs and see stuff in the brain they couldn't see before. So, science, if you can't see it, it doesn't exist. Right.
Yeah.
And then, so, but I went back in the archives, brother. I went back to the 1800s and the 1900s and studied a lot in osteopathic medicine, because that's where they do a lot with lymphatic work. Andrew Taylor Still, the founder of osteopathic medicine, was really big into lymphatics, and same with Ayurvedic medicine. They've been teaching for a couple of thousand years.
Just a couple thousand.
So they talked, I read some of those books and I'm like, Jesus Christ, it was all the yellow paper that was like from a typewriter, but it was mind blowing how these people had to think and then theorize and look at, and they were right. You look later on, and it's just, it was a different era, but it was buried. And you're like, how can nobody have seen this? And I always equate it to, if you go back to the Indiana Jones movie, The Power of the Ark of the Covenant, where they find the damn thing and they put it in a box in the warehouse. You're like, What'd you do that for? And I think it's the same thing with the lymph and breathing. You just got to find the covenant again.
Got to find the covenant again. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a big part about breathing. And you know why I got into it, because that's a primary pumping mechanism of lymphatics.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with a population of people that, one, don't even know the lymphatic system exists or what to do about it. Two, you got people that don't know anything about breathing and very rarely breathe through their diaphragm. And then here's the thing now, when you get into breathing, there's so much on breathing, you don't even know what the hell to do anymore. You think,
exactly,
I got 5 billion ways to breathe. Which one is right? Well, it depends on the situation that you're in. They all work at some point, but just start somewhere. Like mouth taping is a good one.
Just shut your mouth and breathe.
It's simple. And the other thing that moves lymphatics is human movement.
Mm-hmm.
Moving more of yourself, more often, more ways, and more environments. So, and people don't move a lot either. But here's also, if they move, they always move the same way.
Yes.
And that can make you vulnerable too, because you're gonna lay down lines of tension, of stress based on your movement patterns. And when you do that, fluid has to move around tension. Mm-hmm. So you can cause blockages and obstructions because you don't move in enough of a variety of ways. So you become more vulnerable because you either don't move enough or you do the same type of movement all the time. That's why you got to shake things up. So I tell people, if you do bodybuilding, go to a yoga class.
Yeah.
If you do yoga,
go to a bodybuilding.
Pick up some heavy shit and carry it and put it back down again. Right?
Definitely.
Stuff like that. You just variation, variability, and variety. It's called the 3 V's by my friend Joanne Elphinston, or I encompass it in one word: different.
Yes.
Do things differently than you're doing it now, right?
Yeah.
And those things can make a huge difference. And here's the thing about the lymph. Like, the majority of the lymphatic system is located in 3 places. The skin.
Mm-hmm.
So the skin is a major detox organ. And that's why a lot of people get skin issues when they have lymphatics that are backed up.
Okay.
The other one is the neck. So you have 600 to 700 lymph nodes in the body. A lymph node, think about it as like a mini toilet that flushes out bad stuff. Mm-hmm. And you got 600 of them that's trying to flush out toxins. And if you have a backed up toilet in your house, not so good.
No.
If you got a backed up toilet in your body, you're going to get sick. It's just a matter of when, and you're going to stay sick if you don't clear it out. I'm going to tell you that until I'm going to die on my deathbed standing by that.
Saying that. Yeah.
And then, so you got 600 to 700 of those lymph nodes in your body. 1/3 of that number is from the neck up.
Wow.
So what does that, when you hear that stat, what does that tell you? That tells you that the head and the neck is pretty damn important, and it's there to drain the most precious organ that you've got, which is your brain.
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago that they didn't even think you could drain toxins from your brain. If you think how crazy that is through the lymph system. And the last place is the gut.
Okay. Yeah. Because you've got, but from that perspective as well, with the majority of them being in the sort of neck up, I guess, not only is that potentially, is that, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but trying to drain stuff from your brain, but is it also trying to protect shit from the rest of the body going up to the brain?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of both. I mean, you're obviously trying to drain them here, but then you've got everything, all of the toxins from obviously you've got a whole bunch in your gut, as you say, but if you've got everything else flowing around the body, you're probably not wanting all that shit just to end up going upwards. So having more lymph through the neck and whatever else, I don't know. That's just
well, I mean, listen, your body's got one job, and it's not happiness. It's live. It's not dying right now. Like survive. Like the only thing it cares about is that you're going to be alive in the next second.
Yeah.
And then whatever it does to accomplish that goal is going to be the right choice, because you're not dead. It may not seem like the most ideal choice, but it has to do the best it can with what it's got in the moment it's in.
Yes.
And it does things that it finds useful.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing you have to remember. You have to drop the right or wrong context of things, because the brain is not concerned about right or wrong. It's concerned about useful, because right and wrong is semantics based on where you are in the world. Mm-hmm. Like right in one country is wrong in another. So which one is right? Yes, they both are. right?
Yeah.
It's just the context that drives it. So your brain will make a choice based on utility, usefulness, and it worries about the outcome later because it has to make sure that it works right now. You follow? So that's just biology and physiology. That's that non-conscious, subconscious driver of biology that steers your behavior when you think you're steering it. That's why I agree with Sapolsky on the free will. You really don't have free will because there's so much being made for you in the background that you got no freaking clue about.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
the great lie is that you think you're in control, but you're not.
Yeah. So kind of like what Gary, again, obviously go back to what Gary says, but like Gary always kind of says that idea of you are like, there's no such thing as a dysfunctional body. Like your body is doing exactly as much as it can in that moment with the shit that you've given it. And so you're kind of actually, you know, if you give it the right input and the right thing at that time, and you assess your life, actually, like there's a very strong chance that any dysfunction, well, that's inverted commas, guys, would actually then begin to reappear as function. But you know, in that moment, in that particular time, your body is doing everything it can for you with the shit that you've given it. And I kind of always like that idea of like, it's just survival.
Right. He's right. Listen, words are biological information.
Yeah.
Words change physiology. Not just the ones that you say, but the ones that you think. Right? Because words in and of themselves are inherently meaningless. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is that, say somebody showed me a word in Sanskrit. I want to know what the hell you just showed me, even though it's a word, right? But if you showed me the same word in English, you could set me off and get me stressed out. So it's the same damn word, but one didn't do anything to me, and the other one sent me through a tailspin, and my immune system went haywire. What's the difference? It's not the word. It's the meaning of the word.
Yeah.
So I want you to think about this for a second. What comes to your mind when you hear the word dysfunctional? People that are listening, think about it. Is it a very empowering word?
Yeah.
What does it imply? Broken.
Broken, yeah. Which again,
you're not broken.
And then get like, and then like this one of the in exactly, clearly you and Gary are on exactly the same page here, but like he always said, like, you're not broken, and do you really want to be fixed? If you look up the definition of fixed, like, do you mean like it's to like secure and to like, I can't, I'd have to look up the English dictionary, but essentially to fix into place, to like, to make secure. And do you want that with your body? Surely you want your body to be able to be free and moving and to be able to do everything. You don't want it fixed in one place. I know that's very semantic again, but you know,
no, it's not semantic at all, because one word can change the course of your life.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, well, just think of the opposite. I mean, that's why I love looking at synonyms and antonyms, because they're very powerful. Is that, you know, when you hear the word fix, what does that automatically imply? Something's broken.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
If you got to fix it, I mean, it's broke. I think that when your body's falling apart like that, even that word I don't like, but it's really, it's highly functional. It's like too damn good at what it's doing.
Yeah.
Right. It's trying to really, really protect you. It's the same thing. I have a big problem with the word cure.
Yeah.
And people say, because you have to be careful when you throw that word around anyway. But I'll tell people there's no such thing as a cure, because cure implies you're never going to get it again. Mm-hmm. There's only, as I say, can you cure my back pain? No. Mm-hmm. I can help you manage it, which means that maybe you go for 30 years without it.
But it ain't cured.
That's good management skills, right?
Yeah, man.
But who's got to manage it? It's not my job to manage it. It's your job to manage it. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to try to teach you the skills to do it. One of the biggest skills is just to reframe how you look at your back pain, because we know that back pain is significantly on the rise in the world today, particularly in Western cultures. So we've got more technology than ever before. We've got more research and more corrective exercise programs, and people are worse than ever before. So you tell me, whatever we're doing, it ain't right.
Yeah.
And a lot of it they're seeing comes down to the stress and the emotional context of where you hold tension in the body. And for me, it relates back to what we were originally talking about, is that one of the things that can cause a significant amount of discomfort in the lower back is when you have so much excess tension, inflammation, and backed up fluid flow and the other side of it, which is the front.
The front. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, but doc, doesn't hurt in the front. And I'm like, now you're catching on. Now you're thinking.
Stop chasing pain.
Yeah, right. I mean, listen, with that phrase, it doesn't mean stop treating it.
No.
It means stop chasing it. Because listen, treating pain is easy because the patient does all the work for you. They come in and point to where it freaking hurts. It hurts right here. Okay, well, let's do something there, and hopefully it works. And you cross your fingers, and it usually does, and that's great. Yeah. But if it keeps coming back, it's probably not it, or maybe you only got a piece of the puzzle, or you have to change the order of things around like that, or maybe you're just really messed up, and at that point you do need surgery. Like, working lymph is great, but if you need a new shoulder, you come see me afterwards, and I'll put you where you need to be, right? So we have to keep it in context. But so you treat pain, but you also look everywhere else. So when people come in to see me, I'm still going to treat you where it hurts because psychologically you expect me to.
Yeah.
And just me touching it and rubbing it makes you feel better, or it says to you that I'm listening and I understand that you're hurting and I want to try to help you. But now is when the heavy lifting begins. That's when I'm going to look for other areas of your body that hurt just as much as that one that you didn't know about. And guess how I'm going to find it?
Get your hands on.
By my awareness exam. Because trust me, I can guarantee you that if you have chronic pain in your shoulder, I'm going to find another spot on you that hurts way more than that one that you didn't know about. And to me, I'm going to go after both.
Yeah.
And if I touch multiple areas that hurt, what that tells me is you have a significant amount of inflammation throughout the whole system, and you're locked in a fight, flight, freeze, fawn response that your body won't let you out of. So you can't just go after attacking isolated tissue because you're not going to get out of the quicksand. If anything, you're going to get pulled under faster. Does that make sense? You understand? Follow that?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, 100%.